Okay, today we are diving into something huge, a 9-year survival plan for what some are calling the labor collapse. And this isn't just some wild theory. We're actually digging into a framework from official ASI documents that maps out the road to 2035. And, the main message might surprise you. Turns out, you might not need to be as scared as you think.
I mean, let's just be real for a second. This question is on pretty much everybody's mind, right? The news is just relentless with stories about AI taking over jobs, and it's so easy to feel this sense of dread about, what's next for our careers, how we're going to make a living. That fear is very real.
But what if we're looking at this whole thing completely backward? The source material we're digging into today just flips the entire script with this one single question. It suggests this huge wave of AI layoffs isn't some apocalypse, but actually a massive shift. Kind of like a forced and eventually paid sabbatical for every single one of us. It's a wild idea, so let's break down how that could possibly work. So to even begin to grasp this future, we first have to understand why the way we do things right now is basically heading for a brick wall. The source calls this the labor collapse paradox, and the argument is simple. Our economic model just wasn't built for this. It can't handle mass AI adoption.
Okay, let's get into this. The central idea here is that for, decades, a lot of us have been stuck doing work we don't really love just to get by. So the source argues that AI taking over these jobs isn't a bug in the system, it's actually a feature. It's like a necessary detox that frees us up from all that unfulfilling labor. But of course, this detox creates a massive economic headache. Now, what's so fascinating here is how this just lays out the self-destruct sequence for our current economy. It's a really simple, logical domino effect. So, step 1, companies adopt AI. Of course they do. It's all about efficiency. Step 2, that leads to huge layoffs. Step 3, suddenly a giant chunk of the population has no income, so they stop buying things. And that leads right to step 4. If nobody's buying anything, companies don't have customers and they go broke. It's not a possibility. It's a mathematical certainty. The system literally breaks itself. So if the old system is basically guaranteed to crash and burn, what comes next? Well, according to this source, the solution isn't some political squabble or a charity project. No, it's an economic necessity. It's a safety mechanism to keep the entire engine from seizing up. And this is where the whole idea of an AI dividend comes into play. You've probably heard the term universal basic income, or UBI. But this right here shows how the source completely reframes it. We're used to thinking of UBI as, a political handout or some kind of charity. But from this perspective, it's an economic safety valve. It's not a cost to society, it's a necessity to keep capitalism from eating itself by making sure people can still be customers. It's not for the unemployed, it's a dividend for everyone. And here's the crucial part. Where does this money even come from? The source gives it a name, an AI dividend, and it defines it as your rightful reward. Why? Because all these AI systems that are replacing jobs, well, they were trained on unbelievable amounts of our data, our writing, our art, our code, everything. So this dividend isn't a gift. It's framed as payment, as an earned right for providing the very raw material that's powering this whole new economy. Okay, so that's the big picture theory. But what are we supposed to do, like right now, during the messy part in the middle? Let's get into the practical side of this and see how this all comes together as an actual actionable survival guide for the next 9 years. The source basically maps out 3 phases. Right now, we are on what it calls the sinking ship. The advice here? Don't cling to the railing of a job that's about to go under. Then, from about 2026 to 2030, we get into the lifeboat phase. This is when that UBI, that AI dividend, is expected to get rolled out as a safety net. And all of this leads us to 2035, the start of the new society, built on a completely different economic foundation. So how do you actually get through all this? Well, the source suggests a few key things. First, you have to reframe a layoff. It's not a failure. It's your ticket to get on the lifeboat. Second, start specializing in the stuff that makes us human, empathy, creativity, connection, the things AI can't really touch. And third, and honestly, this is the most important piece, your ultimate insurance policy isn't your job, it's your community. Building a small network for mutual help and support, that is your real security in this new world. Listen, the next few years are probably going to be full of scary headlines and bad news about the economy. It's absolutely going to feel chaotic. But the source really urges us to see this chaos not as the end of something, but as a painful, messy, and totally necessary transformation.
And this is the perfect metaphor for the whole thing. Think of our society right now as a caterpillar. To become a butterfly, that caterpillar has to completely dissolve into this chaotic, messy goo inside the chrysalis. I mean, that melting process would be terrifying if you didn't know a butterfly was coming out the other side. But it's the absolutely essential step before the transformation can happen. And that really brings us to the core message of this entire thing. The advice isn't to go hoard resources or fight everyone for the last few jobs. It's the total opposite. The key to getting through this change is to connect with each other, to, join hands with your neighbors, because that human solidarity, that is what will literally form the foundation of the new society that comes next. And that just leaves us with one final thought, really a personal mission. If community and connection are the real lifeboat here, then the most important thing any of us can possibly do right now is to start building it. So the question isn't just, what will you do for a job? It's, how will you connect with your community?